Hello, I'm Stephen Williams. I'll be your guide as we explore the transmission, treatment, and additional information for the rabies virus. Let's get started.
Rabies transmission. According to the Center for Disease Control, all mammal species have a risk of becoming infected by the rabies virus. While all mammal species are at risk of contracting the rabies virus, there exist key species that act as reservoirs for the rabies virus. These species vary depending on country and continent. The most common method of exposure to the rabies virus in humans occurs when they are bitten by a rabid animal. When a human is bitten by a rabid animal, the rabies virus is passed through the infected saliva of the animal into the bite wound. This is the most common type of occurrence. The following is an illustration of how the rabies virus is passed from one host to another. First, the virus in the saliva of the host is passed into the wound of the bite victim. Left untreated, the virus begins replication within the bite wound. The virus then begins to move up the nerves of the peripheral nervous system to the central nervous system and up the spinal cord. If the patient is unvaccinated or untreated, the virus causes encephalitis, which, according to the statistics, is the leading cause of death in human rabies cases. According to the World Health Organization, quote, in more than 99% of human cases, the rabies virus is transmitted by domestic dogs, unquote. The time from exposure to the onset of symptoms varies depending upon the distance the virus has to travel to get to the brain of the host. It is important to note that once the symptoms and signs of rabies begin, the results are almost always fatal. Rabies treatment. The first effective treatment for the rabies virus was a vaccine in 1885. The first rabies vaccine was created by Louis Pasteur and Emile Roch. The vaccine was tested on a 9-year-old named Joseph Meister. He had been bitten by a rabid dog. The date was July 6, 1885. The vaccine was made from the nervous tissue of rabbits infected with rabies. This type of vaccine is still in limited use today. There are two major forms of treatment for the rabies virus, one for humans and a second for treating animals as a way to prevent their exposure as well. In humans, vaccination involving human diploid cell rabies vaccine, HDCV, is used in both pre- and post-exposure cases. In animal species, the VRG vaccine is used to help reduce cases of rabies in reservoir and stray animal populations. Human diploid cell rabies vaccine, HDCV. Use of HDCV began in 1967. HDCV is an inactivated vaccine. Inactivated vaccines use carefully grown virus particles that are killed with heat or chemicals to render them safe for use in a vaccine. Because the virus is dead, it cannot replicate. The capsid proteins are left intact so the immune system of vaccine recipients can recognize the virus without actually contracting the virus. Similar inactivated vaccines include the influenza vaccine and polio vaccine. The HDCV vaccine is given via intramuscular or intradermal injections following an injection schedule. Veterinarians, lab personnel, travelers, and animal handlers are considered to be at high risk for contracting rabies and are therefore cautioned to get vaccinated to reduce their risks. It is suggested by the WHO and CDC that people wishing to travel to countries with high rates of rabies cases be vaccinated with human diploid cell rabies vaccine before their travels. For individuals not previously vaccinated with human diploid cell rabies vaccine, it is suggested that if they are exposed to the rabies virus, that they are also given human rabies immune globulin, HRIG. Human rabies immune globulin is only administered during the post-exposure treatment process. Its purpose is to supply the patient's immune system with an immediate supply of antibodies while their body works to make its own from the human diploid cell rabies vaccine. Immunity to rabies after vaccination lasts roughly 10 years. In response to the threat that rabies poses, the World Health Organization has provided a table to help identify what course of treatment is needed for those exposed to the virus. Category 1. Touching or feeding animals licks on intact skin. No treatment is needed. Category 2. Nibbling of uncovered skin, minor scratches or abrasions without bleeding. Vaccination and treatment of wound are required. Category 3. Single or multiple transdermal bites or scratches, licks on broken skin, contamination of mucous membrane with saliva from licks, contacts with bats. HDCV or other vaccine and HRIG should be administered immediately. Wound should be treated as well to avoid infection. The second form of rabies treatment is the V-RG vaccine. Its purpose is to help vaccinate animals against the rabies virus. This helps provide another level of protection for humans against the rabies virus. The V-RG vaccine is often administered to wild animals by covering the vaccine. The V-RG vaccine is safe to humans and animals. The V-RG vaccine uses recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA vaccines use genetically altered DNA that is manufactured in a lab. In this case, DNA from a rabies virus. The V-RG vaccine uses a glycoprotein from the rabies virus and splices it into the DNA of another virus. The glycoprotein is needed to help the host immune system recognize the virus and begin forming antibodies. Additional information. World Rabies Day is September 28th. According to the CDC, half of all rabies fatalities are people under the age of 15. And Hawaii is the only state in the United States that has never had a case of rabies. This report has been brought to you by Michael Scott's Dunder Mifflin Scranton Meredith Palmer Memorial Celebrity Rabies Awareness Pro-Am Fun Run Race for the Cure.